In a world where justice is supposed to be blind, there are those who believe the scales are tipped in favor of the powerful. The ones who are meant to protect us are often the ones who cause the most harm. The police force, sworn to serve and protect, have become a symbol of fear and mistrust for many. And the court system, designed to ensure justice for all, has failed time and time again. But there are those who refuse to be silenced, who fight for change, and who demand accountability. Join our host, former Texas police officer and major crimes detective, Justin Carlson, on a journey through the darkness as he shines a light from his extensive 14 years of experience on police injustice and the failed court system. And as he speaks with the many others who have also experienced injustice. This is Failing Justice.
Good evening, Failing Justice audience. Welcome to the Failing Justice podcast. I am your host, as always, Justin Carlson, and I have my almost co-host, Preston Green, with us tonight.
Still unofficial.
Yeah, unofficial still. But glad you guys are here tonight, joining us for the Failing Justice podcast. Man, it's been a crazy week. We've switched studios. We were in downtown Dallas, and due to commute and everything, we switched over here to a really nice studio in Frisco. And so it's been a heck of a week trying to get all these things lined out and together, but I think it's come together nicely. I'm real proud of where we're at. And I guess I got to credit you because, I mean, technically you found this place. So give credit where credit's due, right? Anyway, check out the new layout too. We got the new layout there. We're just kind of testing some things to see what we like, what we don't like, but I kind of like the new layout too. So
yeah.
Anyway, well, so I guess we kind of have there's been a couple things that's happened over the last week or so. And it's kind of brought us to tonight's topic, which is something that we're kind of both passionate about. I know you are for sure.
Absolutely.
We're going to kind of dive in a little bit on some mental health talk, especially when it comes to, we're talking about wanting to better law enforcement as a whole, right? So we got to touch on all things, and I think one of the things that we have to touch on is mental health because it affects a lot of aspects of law enforcement. So we've both been touched by it. We've had friends touched by it, and so we, due to the things that's happened this week, and what I'm talking about specifically, there were several things that happened. Especially those that are in law enforcement that's paid attention, because sometimes, like the general public, I don't think they get a lot of law enforcement news. Like for me, I follow tons and tons and tons of law enforcement Facebook pages. And so I think we hear about things that the general public doesn't hear about. So not like everybody's seen this news, like it wasn't on Fox 4 or whatever, but specifically speaking, down in Austin, Texas this week, we've had, it was law enforcement took a hit over there this week. There was a police officer that was killed in the line of duty. They had a shooting over there, and then there was also one that, specifically speaking, that committed suicide. And her name's Christy. I'm going to get this last name right. Christy Astron. She committed suicide over the weekend. Is that? I know it's up there, but I don't see it on that screen. I don't know if it's for everybody to see it. We're going to try to get the picture up there so that way everybody can see what I'm talking about here. But I'll tell you a little bit about her while we're waiting on the picture to get pulled up. Like I said, Christy Astron's her name. She was a senior police officer for the Austin Police Department. And just the article that I'm reading here, it says she was known for her professionalism, integrity, compassion, and she served a role in public safety and law enforcement. During her 15-year tenure, she handled many high-profile cases. She had 15 years, which is kind of where I'm at right now. Her remarkable career and professional ability to conduct every complex case made her an award-winning police officer. A little bit more as you go down here. It says she was a trustworthy police officer who appropriately interacted with victims. Award medal, prestigious Purple Heart, and a life-saving medal. These awards were a testament to her excellence and bravery in her journey. In addition to her professional life, Christy was a devoted wife and a beloved mother to 2 children. She had a great sense of humor and an infectious smile that lit up everyone around her. I think we have the picture up now. I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Okay, so yeah, so that picture, that's her. I mean, just look at her. Look at that smile. 15 years on the job, and she took her life over the weekend in Austin. And man, I tell you what, this isn't, unfortunately, it's not uncommon that we see this in our profession.
It's pretty frequent.
Yeah, and I think it's getting even more frequent than what it was before.
Yeah, well, I think we're now starting to not only pay attention a little more, but I think it's you'll hear about it more often. So,
yeah. Well, it's sad, man. That it says she was a wife, and she was a mother of 2 children, and it said that another piece in the article said that she committed suicide after battling with mental illness. And it's easy to do in this profession, which I know we'll dive deep into that. But I just want everybody to see that picture because, number one, you have a police officer here that's out serving the public here in Texas for 15 years, and you have a mom. She wore many hats, and it's definitely a loss. One other thing, and I guess we'll go ahead and play it if you can pull up that video. So this was
Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is in mourning following recent deaths by current and former employees who took their own lives. Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda talked to Sheriff Robert Luna today.
It's a brotherhood and sisterhood at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. So any loss is tragic. It's emotional.
L.A. County Sheriff Robert Luna says the department is in pain after 4 of their own died by suicide in just a 24-hour period. They happened between Monday and Tuesday. The department says 3 were active members of the agency and 1 was retired.
If you're not okay, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say you're not okay.
The Sheriff's Department says 9 current or former employees have died by suicide so far this year. Studies show that across the country, more officers die from suicide than killed in the line of duty. Data going back to 2018 shows the pattern. Just last year, according to the FBI, 118 officers died in the line of duty. Blue Help, which is a nonprofit that collects data on law enforcement suicides, estimated 161 suicides that same year. Laura Linder is the founder of Exclusively First Responders, which tries to create awareness about mental health issues for law enforcement.
They're overworked, but mostly the mental health that happens to them based on, the traumas that they're seeing on a daily basis, they're human. They're going to have effect. That's going to affect them.
The department is looking at all of these cases and so far do not appear to be connected. The sheriff agrees the department, which is the largest in the nation, doesn't have enough deputies.
As we dissect each one of them, I'm not saying that all of them are the same. We look for patterns, but we have a staffing crisis with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We are shorthanded well over 1,000 deputies.
I'm Carlos Granda, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, so so many things I could say about that video. I kind of want to break a lot of it down. First and foremost, I do want to talk about, they mentioned the nonprofit organization Blue Help. So Blue Help,
Do you know who runs that or something like that?
yeah, so she was actually at the New York Stock Exchange today ringing the bell, the opening bell, which was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah, she was there today. Her name's Karen Solomon. So and I'll talk a little bit about how I got in contact with Karen Solomon. She's a co-founder of Blue Help. They're doing great work, trying to bring awareness to law enforcement suicide. She was on Dr. Phil recently. She's a real sweet lady, and I actually she's super busy, bless her heart. She checks in on me from time to time. I messaged her last week and asked if she'd be willing to come on the podcast, and she said she's coming to Texas in December. So maybe she'll have an opportunity to get on the show. But that's what they mentioned on that show was Blue Help, and Karen Solomon she's a co-founder of that, and she's doing really good work. Organizations like that, I'm real thankful for. But going into this video, obviously you heard the news anchor say over the weekend, 4 LA County Sheriff's deputies committed suicide. 3 were active. 1 was retired. And I understand, somebody could say, well, that's the largest, and they said it on there too, that's the largest law enforcement agency in the country. And, even still, I would say that those numbers are pretty staggering. Like I said, 9 this month, plus the 4 over the weekend. That's a lot, man, for even if you are the largest law enforcement agency in the country. And I specifically want to highlight too, and I don't know that sheriff from a hole in the ground. I mean, and I don't want to sit here and dog him either, right? Not knowing him. But I have a problem with the statement that he made when the first clip of him talking, when he said, we lost LA County Sheriff's Department it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood, right? So we talk about the thin blue line all the time, brotherhood, sisterhood, you hear it constantly.
Right.
But, and you and I have had this talk plenty of times, but I just feel like, so he's got ABC 7 in his face with a microphone. He's got to say something that sounds good, that sounds appealing to the listeners, to the viewers. But I just have a problem with him saying it's a brotherhood, sisterhood, because I in so many different ways I disagree with that. And what I mean by that is I feel like we could do better. Obviously, we could do better. I just feel like we fail sometimes to take care of our people. And I know you're just itching to get in here. I know you're waiting. You're waiting for me to shut up because you're not. I mean, I think your passion may be a little bit greater than mine. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's an accurate statement, but I know you have a passion. So I'll just shut up and stop rambling and kind of let you touch on that statement. The whole sisterhood, brotherhood thing.
Yeah. Well, I would look at the intent behind this statement, and I would, I think there's value in the statement saying that a brotherhood and sisterhood. I mean, I think that's the goal. Like, that's what we're trying to accomplish, right? Is create that culture, have that family culture. And this the thin blue line that people always talk about. You see the flags. just I think the truth of it is that's not the majority of law enforcement in the career field probably don't hold any value to that phrase, the thin blue line, because I feel like it's more of a image or a logo or a mascot now versus what the meaning of it should be. That we stand together, we're all holding the line.
I would like to know, and we should have looked this up. Maybe while you're talking, I'll try to look it up. I don't know when that came out. So when I first started law enforcement, I don't remember that.
No. So
I don't know where that came from, actually.
Maybe, I think it got popular when I was in the academy. So 2017-ish. I don't know. It's probably.
Yeah. So it says the thin blue line symbol has been used by the, oh my gosh, this is probably one of those crazy left-wing liberal articles. It's just the thin blue line symbol has been used by the Blue Lives Matter movement, which emerged in 2014. Yeah, I'm not going to continue reading this out loud because I think it's absurd. But let's say 2014.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because when I started working in 2007, I don't remember this. I think probably 2014 is probably an accurate thing. And maybe I should read this. If we want to get controversial, maybe I should read it. It says, okay, it says it was used by the Blue Lives Matter movement, which emerged in 2014 as a rebuttal to the Black Lives Matter movement.
I do recall that being.
Is that accurate?
Well, I do recall seeing like the flags more, the signs, the stickers in the back of the window, to kind of show support for law enforcement.
Yeah. So 2014 is when, is that when the whole thing in St. Louis happened?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe so.
I mean, you're talking to a guy who graduated high school in 2013, so
I forget. You're just a little smidge younger than me. Yeah. So I think maybe, and I can't recall the names right now, but the shooting that happened in St. Louis, Missouri, which was kind of like I think that was like the first big outrage in modern day.
At least within our career.
Yeah. So that's probably accurate in 2014. And of course this article is, and it probably was, man. There was a lot of people that, that was a very, very public thing, that shooting in Missouri. And, I think maybe that come out as I think the police were kind of like, hey, like we, we're, you have the dark and then you have the blue, the bright blue, like, we're the line that stands in between the evil. And that's true. Obviously we, police go out and they respond to calls, dangerous calls. And when you call 911, they respond. So maybe that's kind of how that started, because there were a lot of police haters around that time.
Yeah.
All over one incident, right? Like, how crazy is that? You have, getting a little off track, but you have that one incident, and then everybody hates the police because it hit the media, and it was blowing up.
I think that's the key word, what you just said, the media. And there's plenty of people that have probably for decades hated the police, had bad encounters, or there's been plenty of incidents like the one that started the movement. But I think 2014 or around that area was prime time for people to use something to create a divide. And I think we talked about that the last episode a little bit.
Yeah, so it was Michael Brown. August 9th, 2014, 18-year-old Michael Brown was shot and killed by police officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson, Missouri.
Okay.
That's what it was. I knew that information. It's just been a while. But yeah, I mean, there was obviously a big divide, because I think, the media came forth, and I think there was good intentions behind the creation of the whole thin blue line flag thing. Maybe, I mean, but I don't.
So, kind of go back to the brotherhood and sisterhood thing, and then the phrase, where we hold the thin blue line, or we hold the line together, yada yada yada. I'll be just quite frank. I don't buy into any of that.
I don't either.
And here's the reason why. Do I believe in that? Yes. Do I believe that we should have a culture where we value that? We value each other as much as we would one of our family members, one of our brothers, one of our sisters. Absolutely. I mean, that's the goal. That's what we should strive to do within our profession, is to embody that culture, and where we truly care about one another. But that's not, I think, what we're using these phrases for, and what the current meaning of it is. And I think it gets abused, quite frankly. And you get people within the profession that will use those things as just a brand or an image, to try to say, oh, we're taking care of each other here. But if we were taking care of each other, then we wouldn't be talking about what we're talking about. You wouldn't have those 4 deputies, or that officer in Austin who take their life, if we meant it. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not making a blanket statement saying that everybody is that way. I just do believe that we use it without meaning sometimes. Because I'll be honest, man, it's I think that the law enforcement profession right now, the current environments that officers work in, they're extremely, extremely toxic. And I think there's multiple things that are causing factors to our mental health crisis that we're in within the profession. But just the fact that it's a toxic work environment to begin with is probably one of the.
Yeah. And I don't want to take this for, if anybody's, going to watch now or listen to this later. Like, I don't want to take this conversation. Obviously, this is Failing Justice. We talk about all aspects of the criminal justice system. We talk about law enforcement a lot because we're both cops, right? So I don't want to take this conversation and it be like, oh, well, I care about the mental health crisis as a whole, because it's not just cops, right? But we're specifically speaking cops here, because what makes it, I think, life's hard right now, dude. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. The economic crisis has hit everybody. I mean, just mental health is through the roof in general. But we're talking about law enforcement because that's kind of what our show is geared towards. And that, I don't want to make this conversation to where like, oh, well, you guys don't care about other people. You just care about cops' mental health. But no, because, I mean, we want, number one, to bring awareness to it, right? But number two, for those that watch this show or listen to this show that are not in law enforcement, to kind of get a little bit of insight, on what cops have to deal with and what they have to face on a daily basis. Because, like, there's a difference between if I have a bad day, say I have a bad day today, and I mean, you name it, right? Like my car engine went out, my kid broke his arm, fighting with my wife, but I got to go on shift tonight at 7 p.m. And that shift may consist of, your first call right off the bat is, Maybe it's a theft at Walmart, maybe an easy call. Then you have a couple easy calls, and then you get that call, right? You get that one call where it's a domestic, husband and wife fighting, husband has a weapon, and you're immediately heightened. You got to turn those lights and sirens on. You're driving in this call. And you're trying to get in the right mindset to show up and deal with this. You're thinking of all the different scenarios, like, you're responding. I'm speaking from experience. I've responded lights and sirens to many domestics, and you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, if this guy walks out with a gun, what am I going to do? If this guy walks inside, shuts the door with a gun, what am I going to do? What if he shoots himself? What am I going to do? Like, there's so many different things, ways that these calls can go. And you've had a real crap day. And you go out there and you're expected to just make this decision, whatever that decision is going to be, because you don't know, right? You're going over them in your mind on the way there, but you truly don't know. And you get there, and God forbid, say the male party walks out with a gun, points that gun in you, and you have to take action. You have to deal with it. And say you shoot this person. Whatever the outcome may be, whether he lives or dies, there's so many things that's going to, and you've been in a critical incident. I would like to talk about that too. And I think you can. It's past, it's done and over with. We can talk about it. In your mind, man. And then you have probably, let me add to the mountain of crap here. Then you have an agency, who you may already have problems with for whatever reason. So you may be in trouble there. One of your friends might have turned on you. You're having a problem with administration. Whatever the case may be, there's turmoil within the walls of the police department, and you have all of this stuff coming at you. And I say we, because I'm a cop now. Again, we are just expected to deal with this and make the most perfect decision, not piss anybody off, try our best not to, kill somebody, injure somebody, say the wrong thing to somebody. And it doesn't matter really what decision you make. Let's be honest. You can make A, B, C, or D. You're still going to have to face your administration. You're going to have to face your city administration. You're going to have to face the Texas Rangers. You're going to have to face the district attorney's office. You're going to have to face all the news media. All of these things, man. It's kind of crazy when you think about it, right?
It's a lot, huh?
It is.
Well, I mean, you make good points all the way around. I mean, and you threw a lot in there, and you're right. I mean, and that was worse. That was an extreme scenario with, as far as
it was an extreme, yeah,
and having to make that decision. And I think
but you never know when that's coming.
No, and I think what you're saying is like,
and I don't want to interrupt you, but also one thing I didn't add. If we're talking about justice is getting failed if we as police officers aren't right. We had those guys in our studio, and their interaction started with cops. Now, I think it was a completely different scenario. There may be a little bit corruption involved there. Who knows? But what I'm getting at is we are trying not to fail justice. So we got to back up all the way over here. Okay. We got to start where we can start, what's truly tangible, what we can really change. And if we don't, right, if we don't make that a priority, if these agencies don't make this a priority, and I mean a real freaking priority, and we can talk about what that looks like, we're failing justice down here on the other end, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you can, to summarize why it's important that we talk about this from a law enforcement perspective, I would say that one of the biggest things hindering the justice system right now, where we are making mistakes, where we are not putting enough resources and attention to, in my opinion, nationwide, is the critical mental health crisis that our country is in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look within the justice system at all different levels, from law enforcement to the prison systems to the judicial process, we have major failures when it comes to mental health there. You know, I think that
you got mental health treating mental health.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? Like if you look at it that way.
Yeah. I mean,
in some cases, you have mental health treating mental health.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
let's be honest about it. Let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
You know?
But I would say that I think we're making progress within. I would think with the judicial system and some things that we've put in place on a larger scale to mitigate some of this mental health stuff that's going on. But it's not enough because
you mean as a whole, or just whole, you're saying just in the justice system? What do you mean by that?
As a whole, and then yes, within the justice system, I think that there is such a large mental health crisis in the entire country. But I'll be quite frank, like we can solve it through the criminal justice system, but using it the right way. Because you're talking about substance abuse and, crisis intervention, social services, things like that. It all impacts the justice system. The only way you're going to make, I think, true strides to change with it will be utilizing the judicial system, passing legislation, changing the way we do things on a large scale. But I say that is like mental health is affecting the entire system at multiple levels. And what we have an intimate knowledge of and have some control and maybe some influence to help change, it was within law enforcement. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if we don't address the mental health crisis within law enforcement, within the profession, we'll never be able to address the mental health crisis outside of the profession. If we're not good, how can we expect any positive outcome?
And that's why I said I had a problem with what he said. Again, I don't know that guy, but let's have a hypothetical here for a second. That sheriff, LA County sheriff, he had to get in front of the media and he had to say, this is a brotherhood. This is a sisterhood. We want to take care of each other here. This is a real sad deal. But if we really dissected these 4 officers, okay, in their situations, and I don't know what they are, and you're right, I have intimate knowledge of this. I have real intimate knowledge from many different angles on this topic. So I can talk about this. I feel like I can talk about this and I know what I'm talking about. Did they even know as an agency? And of course, he didn't know. He's the sheriff. No. If you think for 2 seconds that guy knew anything about the mental health of these 4 deputies, you're a loon, because he didn't know squat diddly about it. But let's break it down the organizational chart for a little bit and talk about, these officers, these deputies that are way down here. Let's talk about, their immediate supervisors, which bear the responsibility of tuning in to their subordinates' lives, making sure, hey, are you okay today? Like, what's going on? Noticing changes in behavior, call-ins, whatever. We are not doing that. And again, you can't, anything we say in here, you can't blanket, right? No, you can't just come in here and say nobody, it's not happening, because I know there are individuals, there are some agencies that are doing a really good freaking job, right? But as a whole, we are failing hardcore at that. And, I'm just using that as an example because, you get agency administrators.
Well, I'll tell you what pisses me off if you want to get on this topic.
I'd love to know.
Yeah. I'll scroll, we follow groups, police officer groups. So where I see it the most is I'll scroll LinkedIn, and my entire feed.
Oh my gosh.
My entire feed will be of advertisements from this, Police One or Lexapol about mental health this, officer wellness, this program, that program. And then you'll see officers sharing and reposting where officers have committed suicide or, something to do with mental health. We're all talk, no action.
Yeah. Heartbreaking. Put a little, a hand with the heart in it. We're supporting it. But you're right. And a lot of these people on that you see on LinkedIn doing this. I'm just going to be flat out honest. A lot of them are top executives, administrators of police agencies across this country.
Yeah.
Like if we're going to meet at IACP in a big room and have all these break off IACP, International Association of Chiefs of Police, if we're going to have these meetings and we're going to go to them as police chiefs and you want to talk about data-driven policing, statistic this, statistic that, are we going to truly sit there and address mental health head on? You're right. You can talk about it all you want.
Yeah.
But what are we truly implementing to change these officers' lives?
Well, you're going to have to start by changing the culture. That's where it starts. It starts by building a culture within an organization where it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to just have a bad day. Right? And check in on each other. Get back to holding value in being partners, shift partners, and knowing your partner. You ain't gotta like them, but know them.
Yeah.
Paying attention, having conversations, even when it might not be convenient, but having conversations, listening. That's where we have to start. We have to stop talking about it. Stop talking about what we can do. Well, we can implement a wellness program, or we can, as an organization, we can, the city or the county, they'll offer an EAP, but hey, we're going to create a peer support group separately. So you can have to use in addition to the whatever other resources are being offered. We're going to build a training program on it. All that is great. Don't get me wrong. All of that can be useful resources, but none of it will help unless you create a culture that values the fact that you can be okay even if you're not.
My ADHD is kicking in because, dude, so many things that I want to say. I wish I had a pen and I was writing this down as you're talking, because there's just so many thoughts that I had while you were talking. Deep, good thoughts that would just lead into. We could talk about this. This could probably be 2 or 3 episodes if we're being honest. But you're right. You have to build the culture within. But the problem is, and I'm just gonna bust this head on right here. The problem begins at the top in the leadership, because here's the thing. And what I mean by that is, because I know what you're about to say, what I mean by that is, if you have administrators who implement these programs, get the app, get, say, hey, like they can talk about it, like we said, they can talk about it. But when it comes down to it, and that's what that sheriff said, he said, y'all need to know that if you're not okay, just talk to us about it. And I can't tell you how many freaking times that I have seen officers go talk about it. Okay. And those officers didn't come back. I've seen it. And that's the problem, right? If you're too afraid to open up and say, hey, listen, man, like, because again, life's hard, right? It's hard for everybody. But as police officers, if life is hard, and I, revert back to my example earlier, you got to come to work and you got to face these things. It's not like you're going to work, at a bank and you're counting money, or, you're, going in and sitting in some high rise office or whatever. Now, I'm not diminishing mental health in the private sector, but what I'm getting at is when you in law enforcement are going through things and you have to come to work and you have to put that face on, like, you better get your crap together, because you got a shift to run. You got subordinates that need you. If that officer comes and says something like, look, man, me and my wife are, we're on the fritz right now. We got in a really bad fight, like right before I came in. My kids saw it. I got mad. I slammed the door, punched the wall, whatever. And that's what's on your mind. And do you think for a second, especially, and he mentioned it too, with the shortage of law enforcement officers right now, you come to work and you say, yo, I got to go home. I'm not good. I can't do this shift. I can't respond to these calls. I can't deal with this tonight. I need to go home and I need to deal with what's important. Officers aren't doing that. They're compartmentalizing those things. They're packing them away for multiple reasons. One, maybe they don't have time, or I think the biggest reason, though, is the stigma. They can't come out and just say, this is what's going on, in fear of what may happen, right? Like, nobody truly wants to get raw and freaking vulnerable and have them conversations, because everybody looks at Facebook. Everybody's like, oh man, they got the perfect life. Nobody wants to get down and dirty and have those conversations for multiple reasons. I think one of the things is true fear of how, it may be viewed up the chain of command.
I think that's a good possibility for a majority. I think there's a lot of value in that statement. I think it comes down to nobody wants to be vulnerable. We all, and I think that's society in general.
Oh yeah.
But within our profession, I mean, we don't have vulnerable. We don't have a foundation built on being vulnerable.
We talk about that all the time, because it's so you can apply it to so many different aspects of our job.
And to have those conversations, you have to be vulnerable, and you have to have a foundation of trust.
Mm-hmm.
You have to trust that I need to trust that what I'm about to tell you, however, dark or concerning it may be about what's going on in my life, I need to trust that, one, you're not going to judge me. Two, that you're not going to take my livelihood away, get me put on some type of leave, or I say, oh, well, you need to go do a psych eval. I mean, there's just so many things I think that's messed up within our profession, where we just immediately set it up from the get go to fail each other when it comes to mental health. I mean, you got to take a psych eval. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't know if there's any value in taking the psych eval for pre-employment. I really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, because I have known some places to where you take a psych eval and it amounts to sitting down with a doctor for 30 minutes, and
not even when I came back to work in law enforcement. What is it? 100? Is it 180 days? What is your break where you have to redo it?
Yeah, 180.
I think it's 180. So if you're out of law enforcement for longer than 180 days, and I was, you have to retake the state. The TCOL requires you to have a psychological eval done. So I had to do one just back in May.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done one in a long time. I mean, many years. And dude, I went to this office and I sit in the room. They gave me the booklet with the 4 number 2 pencils, and the 600 questions or whatever it is. And she says, "Hey, you got 2.5, 3 hours. Try to knock them out, right?" And she even said, like, if you don't finish them, the doctor views that as a problem. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're kind of fast-paced questions. You can go through them. Like, do you like to be alone? Do you like to be around people? Do you like to work on projects, in a group, or do you like to do it in one-on-one? Like, all these different questions. And it's just, then I get to the end of it and like my hand's freaking hurting. I'm like, this is, whatever. And then I go in, and I know there's science behind it. I know there's a reason for it, but then I go in the office, I sit down with the guy, hey, how long you been in law enforcement? I said, 13, 14 years, whatever it was. Oh yeah, man, you know what's going on then, don't you? I said, yeah, I know exactly what I'm dealing with, what I'm going to face. Okay. And he just kind of asked me a little bit about my family, my home life, whatever. And he said, all right, give me your paper, boy. He's an old guy. He signs my paper, hands it to me, and I take it up to the front desk, and she says, okay, we'll get it sent to your agency. And I walk out the door. I pass the psych, right? What is that? What is that?
Well, I do think there's value in the process, right? But I think what has happened is that's been the process for years.
Oh, dude, the book that I used was gosh, I wish I could remember the date now, but it was pushing 10 years old. I mean, the thing was wore out. I don't know how many people have used that book.
Yeah. So I think it's been a process for years. So it's more of a check the box type situation. I think that you're going to get more value out of actually having the conversation with the doctor, right? And letting the doctor evaluate you. But where I'm going with that is,
nobody's going to go in there and say, hey, I'm struggling mentally, because I need the job.
Yeah. So where I'm getting with that is, like, from the get go, we set it up with the stigma, just to be qualified to be a cop, you got to do this. We're gonna question it. And then you get into the job and you realize, like, you're expected just to go out, respond to these calls, suck it up, do it again, 12 hours, over and over and over again, right? You don't want to show weakness if something bothers you. And you don't want to bring your home life to work. There's just so many factors. And I think what it boils down to is we create toxic work environments. We create cultures where you're going to be judged by each other, right? From all these, I mean, there's just so many other things that are going on within the profession that if you're struggling with mental health, um, you're just not going to bring that up because
Right.
you're fighting so many other battles. How about we fight this one? Because I think this one's worth fighting.
And I feel like it can be fought too. It's worth
Absolutely.
fighting, and it can be fought.
Absolutely. And it starts with the culture and making it okay and putting forth that effort. And I tell you what I have noticed has had the biggest impact within my organization is we have those conversations. You know, when I really think about it, I've never met somebody in this profession, and then after getting to talk to them, and we break down those barriers, and we become a little vulnerable, and we start talking about our childhoods or what we did prior to being cops. Like, I don't think I've ever met somebody who hasn't gone through something in life that has affected them and affected their mental health, and where they've struggled, because we're all human. And that's the reality of the situation. Like, just because we have a uniform on and wear a badge doesn't make us any less human than anybody else out there that we're going to be responding to who could be in a mental health crisis. Just because you're responding to people who are in a mental health crisis doesn't mean that none of us on the inside are exempt to that or haven't been in that situation. I have.
Yeah.
So we don't have those conversations, and you need to have those conversations. You have to. It is key to creating that culture to where it's all right. If you're going through something, come talk to me about it. It's key. If you don't break down those barriers, you don't have those tough conversations, somebody doesn't expose themselves first a little bit. Hey, let me key you in on what I've dealt with in life, what I've gone through, my struggles. Then I don't think we're going to get anywhere, because somebody's going to have to take that first step, and that's what we've done. I mean, I pride myself on that within our organization. Is I know that I can go to anybody with my partners and have that conversation and not get judged. that's what it should be all about. Like, and especially if you're a leader with an organization and law enforcement, that should be your number one priority is taking care of the ones who have selflessly signed up to do this job. And if you're a leader within this profession, like, then you owe it to them to take care of them, to care about them. Don't make their job more difficult. And it's simple. Think about how things will impact them.
Yeah.
Think about how to relieve some stress. You shouldn't have to check on duty or punch that time clock and be more stressed immediately from just walking in the building.
Yeah.
Than you were before. Because I promise you, life's really damn hard. And we continue to do this. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. We're not getting a different result. Building these programs, calling it this, throwing a label on it.
Just in passing, missing. Hey guys, we got this. Like, just in case y'all might need it. All right. Now get out there.
Putting a poster up. That's doing the same thing, and we aren't getting different results, or we wouldn't be talking about, or we wouldn't have had those videos and news clippings. And in my opinion, we can run these statistics all day long. I mean, I think it's important. We need to know the numbers, right? But we shouldn't be looking at it from, last year we had 130. This year we're down to 115. Oh, damn. You call it progress?
Yeah.
No, that's not progress. We need to work on it and tackle the problem until we get to zero. And that's probably, I mean, if you want to be realistic, right? But that we should strive and work and exhaust ourselves on this issue with that being our goal, because I think then we'll see improvement. But I mean, it's I get fired up. I get fired up on this because of my own personal experiences that I've been through, and I've seen my partners go through. And you say it starts at the top, and I will agree. I will agree. But I will say that the biggest impact, the ones who are going to be able to make the biggest impact, are your line level supervisors, your direct supervisors. You need people in executive level, command level positions to get on board, support it. They need to be making it a priority.
To I guess rebuttal on that, because I don't disagree with you. I just want to ask a question, like, because you're right. I mean, I think my biggest influence in my entire career has never been a freaking police chief, except for Rob Vine. That's a little different. I always put him in his own little category because that's totally different. But people who are in the trenches with you, who are responding to calls with you, who you're eating at Whataburger with at 2 a.m, like, those are the people that are going to influence you the most. So my question is, what if you have somebody like that, your line level supervisor, right? But they're battling the culture themselves. The culture within that organization, it's toxic and it's affecting that person. And they're also battling it. How do they fight through that and help their officer? Because that officer may need something, whether it be a week off, maybe a different shift, because his marriage is about to end because he's on nights or whatever. That officer may need something, but your culture all the way up to the top. Now, this is the rules. There's no there's no bend in the rules. It's black and white. This is what we're doing. And I've seen it. I have seen it, and you have too. And that officer, that line level supervisor that you're referring to, they want to help, but then they're limited because of the culture. And that's what I meant by starting at the top, right? Because if you have that at the top, and it's shown, and it trickles all the way down, it makes the other battle, there's one battle that's kind of gone. Like it's not even there. They don't have to worry about it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean that's when I mentioned starts at the top. That's what I meant, because I do agree with you. Like there's a lot of things that go on that administrators don't know about. That's just fact. And what I mean by that is officers helping officers, those line level officers leaning on each other. But when the problem gets to be so big, because it could get there, the problem could be bigger than what that line level officer could deal with. And can he comfortably go and say, hey, boss, listen, like, I know we're short staffed over here on this shift, whatever, but this is the situation. This officer really needs this to happen. What can we do to make it happen? And I've seen it so many times where it's like just shut down, and that little bitty thing could literally make or break a life.
Yeah. No, it could. Yeah. Well, you want
I guess I was just asking, like,
what do you do?
How do you,
I think that the line level supervisors still have the biggest opportunity to make the biggest impact, because what you have to do is decide that this is a fight where you don't waver. When it comes to your people, you don't. When it comes to your partner's mental health and just overall wellness, when it comes to that, you don't waver. No matter what pushback you're getting. If you say that's a battle for that supervisor or whatever, well, my recommendation would be, we'll just keep on fighting that battle, or give your guy off. If it's that big, if it's that serious, somebody needs off, or whatever the case may be, and you can't make it happen, well, then just do it your damn self. If a night shift needs covered, and it's in my opinion, when it's critical to mental health, then you get your ass to work. If you ain't pushed a radio car in 5 years, then you better put on a uniform and jump in a radio car, if that's what it takes. And I'm saying, like, that's how we have to attack this issue, with everything you got to create change, or influence change within a culture, to positively have a positive impact when it comes to mental health. That's what you got to do. You got to hit it head on with everything you got, and you can't let anybody tell you that you need to do it differently. No. You need to do it differently, because what I'm doing is the right thing to do, because I'm going to take care of my people at the end of the day. Like, these are my partners. If we can immediately expect one another, like you and I are on a call, I without a doubt, I would expect for you to risk your life to save mine. If we didn't expect that of each other, then we can handle this. I promise. It's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You're going to have to do things you don't want to do. Somebody's going to have to put in a little more effort. But we can handle this.
Because everything is so SOP driven. Like it's.
Yeah, I don't think you can handle mental health down to the T within policy and procedure.
You can't. It's just one of those things. Like you refer to, especially on the criminal side of things. Like sometimes you have to operate in the gray, and it's the same. I think it's the same when it comes to mental health. You can't. What's in black and white is. Let's be honest. A lot of times it's just crap, and it doesn't apply to all situations. And so you have to operate in the gray, and you can't be SOP driven. And that's a lot. That's sometimes a lot of what's wrong with cultures is it's so SOP driven. Everybody's just on edge, and they're just afraid to say anything.
When it comes to this topic, to create that healthy culture that we're talking about, you really got to care about the person next to you more than yourself. You do. Because I tell people all the time, I think this profession is the most toxic profession there is out there.
It's bad.
And it's not the job that makes it that way.
No,
this job is rough.
Yeah,
right.
You're right.
Right,
because you said it earlier. You're not always constantly responding to those heightened situations.
You're always thinking about.
You're thinking about it, right? And it is hard. Don't get me wrong. It is hard, but you're right. I think the hardest part of this entire freaking profession is when you swipe that key card and you walk in that secure building, and just the atmosphere is just freaking awful, almost to like a lot of times where you don't even want to be there, and it's just it's in the air. You can you can just cut it with a freaking knife, and that has to change.
Yeah, and every organization has it.
Yes,
every single organization has it, and quite honestly,
some are worse than others.
Quite honestly, every profession has it.
Yeah,
but the problem with it, the difference is we ain't got time to deal with it. And I don't mean to undervalue it. I'm saying literally, like we don't have time. We're making important decisions, expected to make important decisions that are going to affect others people's lives. We can't keep sitting around and battling this other issue. We have to address it, and
you got to nip it in the bud and move on.
And tonight's topic, with the mental health thing and these incidents that you talked about in the beginning of the show, that's what we don't want to happen. That's the ultimate end result, right? The worst. But there's so many other things that cause issues for officers when it comes to mental health. That doesn't rise to that level, but still deserves being addressed. And I mean it. Like I think that you've got to put a lot of effort into deciding that this is you want to build a healthier culture, and that's probably where you need to start, is creating a work environment where people can address these things, because it's there. I promise you. Nobody within that house, everybody's dealing with something.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not rainbows and unicorns. Everybody's dealing with something. And it's crazy, because I think we mentioned it last podcast. Sometimes I just feel so damn defeated. right?
Because you have, and I'm specifically speaking you and I, because we're sitting here. I know you well. You know me well. We're best friends. We have these conversations all the time. But you have guys like us who want so much to do the right thing, to help somebody, and they're restricted because of their organization.
Yeah.
The battle that they are raging is not always out there on the street.
No.
And they are so limited, and they're frustrated because of their culture within the organization. And sometimes, man, people clearly, I mean, people don't make it out of it sometimes. Like sometimes they look at their life as a whole. My life at home sucks. That's not recoverable. Like let's just say for a minute, I can't fix that problem at home. We're getting a divorce. That relationship's over. My kid's leaving and our relationship is damaged. I'm going to go home and drink myself, into a slumber. But then they come to work, and maybe for, they want to see like a bright light, like, oh, I'm going to go to work because I need to, and I can speak on this because I've done it.
Keep your mind occupied.
I've freaking done it.
Yeah.
Everything at home is falling apart, and you want to come home or you want to go to work, and you're like, all right, like I'm going to get away from this. But then you come over here and it's not any better. Like you're going to occupy your time. You're leaving one problem and going to another one. And sometimes it's much bigger. And so that's why I think then you start resorting to, women, porn, alcohol, cigarettes, like things that aren't good for your body and for your mind. And then eventually you just totally lose the battle. And we have 4 or 5 just examples right here that we talked about tonight. And not that law enforcement is just going to always be just this oasis. It's not going to be just this lovely little island that you're going to come to. That's not what I'm getting at. But I think,
well, that's not what we're here for.
No, I think, but I think we do, like, if we're expecting somebody to strap a gun on and put a bulletproof vest on and go out and face the things that they're like, you're right.
Expected of them.
Like what's expected of them? Because at any moment they could get that call.
We lose the value in that too.
Yeah.
We lose the value in the oath that they take.
Like we're expecting you to deal with this at any moment, like any second of your 12-hour shift.
That's your job.
But in the meantime, we're not going to make you comfortable while you're at work. We're not going to, oh, you want to wear outer carrier versus a traditional vest. We're going to take your beards away. We're going to, you can't show your tattoos. We're going to, you want 10s, we're going to make you work 12s. You want 12s, we're going to make you work 10s. I think within reason, of course, because you can't have lawlessness. You can't have people just doing what they want. And there has to be structure because we are a structured paramilitary organization. But you have to make it. Who gives as long as your uniform's nice, who gives a crap what if your gear's here, if your gear's there? What makes you comfortable for 12 hours a day while you're sitting in that car expected to go out here and make it a life or death decision? What's going to make you comfortable while you're providing this service for 12 hours? Can we accommodate that reasonably? We're going to make, a guy who's 6'5", get in a little bitty old car, right? and make him do that for, and it's the little things. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's literally those things add up and they add up. But we don't ask those questions to our people. We don't sit there and say, what's going to make you comfortable? What can we do to make your job easier? We don't do that. Especially I say we, administrators don't do that. They don't care. They just make decisions. And you can't do that. I'm sorry, but you can't. And it's those things that build up over time.
The little things matter.
They do.
But man, it's a rabbit hole, because then you get counter, but you'll never make everybody happy. Well, that's true too. But
no, you're right. You won't.
But we just got to change the culture.
We can do better. You're right. We're not going to make everybody happy. I was thinking the other day, this sounds kind of ridiculous, almost, but I was playing around with the idea of, we talk about legislation, like, why can't there be something written somewhere that talks about the culture and what it should be?
There is.
Like what are you referring to?
Code of ethics.
Well, that's not. I agree with that. You're right, but I meant like something that's talked about on Capitol Hill. Like, we're talking about this, and we're going to make this change because, and I'm not talking about just, again, programs and posters and apps and, we have an EAP. Like, that's not what I'm referring to, man. I'm talking about just like boots on the ground, put the shovel in the freaking dirt and do the work.
Yeah.
To make the change.
You're not going to force anybody.
No, and that's the problem. Everybody's,
The only way you're going to tackle this is by influencing heart, minds, and attitudes.
Yeah.
That's the only way. Influencing. And by example. And I tell you, the only leadership style that I would say that will tackle this issue is subscribing to servant leadership. If you're in a position of leadership within the law enforcement profession, subscribe to being a servant leader, and don't just take the title. Let's talk about what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, servant leadership goes. If you're a Christian, it goes back to a biblical meaning when Christ would wash the feet.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is beneath me.
Nothing.
I'm here for you because I'm expecting you to go out there and be there for the community. So I'm here for you. It really, it's a leadership thing. It really is. And I'm gonna tell you what, you can't be about yourself if you want to tackle this issue, because to tackle this issue, you're going to have to constantly be putting others before yourself, and not in the sense of getting ahead or getting that promotion or getting that assignment. That's not what I mean. I mean, you're going to have to put others' needs before yours. You're going to have to put in the extra hours. You're going to have to stay late and listen. Just listen. Because sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to push for what you think is right.
You got to go against the grain, man.
When it comes to this issue,
yeah, you have to, because
this issue affects so many other things.
Yeah,
so many other things.
That's why I said,
we've lost our way so much that, like, this has to be mainstream. This is like what we got to push for, right? Is just to have a healthy work environment. That's some bullshit.
Yeah,
we have lost our way within ourselves. if you want to do this job because you want to serve others, there's no way to do that if it's all for selfish reasons. So within your organization, with your partners, with your peers, with the ones that you serve and lead, and the ones who lead you, you can't do any of it for selfish reasons. And I don't know. It's crazy, man. It's crazy because I see so many good cops, good-hearted men and women who self-destruct and ruin their careers. And it could have been prevented if somebody just was looking out for it or was there.
And even the cries for help sometimes go unnoticed.
Yeah.
They just kind of get pushed to the wayside, and because there are people who do cry for help, even if it's subconsciously and they're not realizing that that's what they're doing. But we're so focused on other crap.
Yeah, we're focused on the wrong thing.
We are just so focused in our profession on image. And I understand how we got there, right? Like,
oh yeah, because we messed up a whole lot.
We messed up so much. And going back to the whole Michael Brown, Ferguson, Missouri thing, that was a turning point, in law enforcement. I lived that. I saw it play out. That's kind of where things, before that, I'm trying to remember, like, I think I talked about it before, and I'm probably skipping some things, but like the whole Rodney King incident, that was a turning point. We have screwed up so much that now everything, we are trying so hard, to shine this glass up, polish it, and then present it. Look at this, y'all. Look at this. This is what we're about, right? But what about what's in I'm just looking at this glass was sitting right here. What about what's in the cup?
Yeah.
Like what's behind the walls? An organization might be falling apart. Officers might be individually falling apart. But you better put that tie on that Class A uniform. You better post this on Facebook. You better say this. You better show up here. Better put that smile on. You better do this. Let's say that we have this program. Let's say we have this program. We're just focused on trying to look so good that we are literally failing ourselves. And in doing that, we're failing the freaking public who we're really supposed to serve.
We're dependent on us.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's what we've sworn to do. It's
we are public servants.
Yeah, so that's the job, right? Why? Therefore, everybody within the profession should be servants to each other.
Yeah.
And I don't want this to come across as like we're just bashing admin or bashing line level supervisors or bashing our partners because we're not looking out for each other enough. That's not it at all. That's not why I say the things I do. When it comes to this issue, I speak from personal experience, and I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I've been in crisis.
Yeah.
I have hit rock bottom in my life during my career.
Same.
And if I wish I wish I would have had more support, But I can tell you right now, if I wouldn't have had the partners that I've had during those times, or leaders, I don't know, man. Maybe you would have seen me on the news.
Yeah.
And it all goes down to just give a damn. Just care and quit saying it. It's pretty simple.
What we talked about last week. You gotta have heart.
Yeah, you do. You have to care.
You have to have heart.
And you know what? Maybe I'll just blanket it. This shit ain't gonna get no better until we start caring.
Yeah.
And we're gonna keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. And we're just gonna watch statistics go up. We're gonna watch good men and women run their careers by self-destructing, because we're all human. We're all dealing with the same thing everybody else is.
Yeah, look at all that, man. And I have mixed feelings about it. I would love to get, I've talked about it before, I'd love to get Chief Garcia from Dallas PD on this podcast. Dallas PD has started doing this thing where they, and it's transparency, I know it, but you got to read a little deeper into it. When their officers get arrested for whatever case, and a lot of times it's been, most of the time you see it for DWI. Like, these officers come out here in DWI. Like, I'm not taking away that they made a poor decision, you know, and getting behind the wheel, driving drunk, or whatever. But can we look a little deeper into that? You see these Dallas PD posts, you know, so-and-so's been on the job 15 years, 20 years. They got arrested for DWI in, you know, Plano or, you know, Garland or whatever. And, you know, they're posting that stuff. And you got to look and you're thinking, okay, well, what's going on in this officer's life? Again, they made a decision. You can't, but you know what I'm saying? Look deeper into that, into that matter. There could be something going on. And it's been overlooked by the agency. Nobody saw it, even though this person may have been making a cry for help. I'm not saying that's all the cases, but I bet you it's some of them. You know?
Well, I mean, if you want to look at substance abuse on a larger scale, a lot of people would say, and I think it would be reasonable to conclude that substance abuse problems are caused by the lack of healthy coping skills or addressing an issue internally. So I don't think it exempts us.
No, it doesn't.
From it. So
it's just we're more in the public eye.
Yeah.
And in today's world, because trust is eroded, it's gone. It pretty much doesn't exist between law enforcement and the public. We're put on blast more.
Yeah.
You know, just be, and yeah, it's deep, man. I think, and we can't have this show and have this conversation without talking about our buddy, right?
Yeah.
You have that picture. So this picture is it's Emmanuel Terrell, really good buddy of mine. Met him when I worked in Gladewater. I actually trained him. Bless his heart. I didn't think he was going to make it through training. You know, he was he's a special character, man. Matter of fact, there were people that wanted to cut him loose, but they pulled me out of the investigations division to train this guy because he needed some extra time, and we became really, really close. I mean, we were close like you and I. And you worked with him too, right? You did.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I couldn't remember what the time frame was, but 2017, man, sitting in the office, sitting in the sergeant's office, just having a conversation, and in walks Rob Vine. He's like, hey, I need to talk to you. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, I mean, it was very serious. I mean, I thought I was in trouble. He said, come to my office. Okay, go in there, shut the door. And he's like, I just got off the phone with Sheriff Webb at Upshur County, and it appears that Terrell has shot and killed himself. And I was like, man, it didn't sit right with me. I was like, it's so crazy. I think back to that moment because I remember just like it was yesterday, and I just think back to that moment, and I was like, I said, that's not right, man. I said, let me call him. So I picked up my phone and called him. Obviously, he didn't answer. I said, are you sure that the right address? He's like, I'm sure they're out there now. Roxanne Warren, she was a detective at Gladewater PD. I took her spot. She left and went to Upshur County. He said, Roxanne's out there. He's like, his family's out there. He's like, I'm sure. I said, I still didn't believe it. I didn't even ask. I just got in the car. I said, I'm driving out there. He said, nah, I'm gonna go with you. So he got in the car with me, and we drove. I drove to his house, and pulled up, and it. Everybody was in such shock. Like nobody was crying. It was just like it was like it hadn't hit everybody yet. Like you pull up, you see the ambulance, you see all the crime scene tape, you see all the stuff, and you're just like, okay, I guess this really happened, And Terrell's mom was out there, and she was cracking jokes. Like it was the strangest thing, but it was because like it just hadn't hit everybody. Yeah. And man, I'll never forget that day. Like, I'd actually, Terrell was going through some things. He definitely was. We had texted that morning. And when you go through these situations, we deal with suicide all the time in law enforcement, like on the public side. And for me, up until this moment, I was just so closed off to any kind of emotion when I dealt with a suicide scene. It was just another thing, like, motionless, compartmentalize, move on to the next thing, right? But when this happened that day, and I didn't go inside, but this is a deep, dark conversation. I apologize, or maybe I don't. I'm just talking, but I didn't go inside. I didn't want to. Maybe I did want to. It's just I couldn't. I didn't go inside, and so they brought him out on the stretcher. They put him in the hearse. Showed up, and they took him out. And man, dude, I called my wife at the time, and I was like, I gotta tell you something. And she was legitimately mad. Like I said, it's about work. And she's like, she thought I got fired. And I told her, and she was like, oh my God, you're kidding me. I said, no, like I'm standing out here. That's what I'm dealing with. And that night, dude, it hit me pretty hard. I'll never forget that night.
Yeah, man. Well, just we talked about things at the beginning of the show about these incidents that was kind of close to home, but it just goes to show that this thing it's real and it's everywhere, and it happens when we least expect it and when we're not looking. And I think it's important to be aware of what's going on in each other's lives. And because we don't ask for help, but we will show the signs. I know this topic's it's close to your heart, and I think that's for you that's your inspiration, because you don't want anybody else to feel the way you do as your partner.
Well, you
and go through that.
You always question, especially after something like this. You're like, what could I have done? You run through that cycle, and man, it was. I have to highlight this because this is, I can talk about it.
Yeah.
And I've personally experienced it. Like, you knew Terrell too. And so, it's just, we have to do better, because Terrell was a good cop. Dude, he wanted to get out there, just as well as I know. That dude wanted to get out there and do the right thing, man. At the right time for the right freaking reasons. This guy was solid.
He writes you a ticket too.
He would. You better believe he'd write his mama a ticket.
Yeah, he would.
But and I was his best friend. I knew some things were going on, but I could never predicted this, right? But I just think of situations with Terrell, and I'm just like, man, like, we could have just done so much better. Like, especially as an agency, like, a lot of us knew the things he was going through, and of course he was also he was a vet. He was in the Marines front line, man. And I'd ask him all the time, I like, PTSD, does that, like, do you have that? Like, you've seen some combat, like, you've seen some serious things. And he said, no, man, I don't. Surprisingly, I don't. It was life for him. Like, the things he was going through.
Life was traumatic.
And he lost his battle with the demons, man. And that's, I get emotional about this. I didn't know I was going to do that. But the thing is, like, you look at these other officers and you hear these other stories, and you're like, those are, they have families, people like me that were in their lives that care about them, and we just got to do better, man. And it starts within our organizations.
Yeah, it starts with, I think we can't wait on everybody else to get on board.
Yeah.
I would say that, you just do it. You ain't even got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You just do it. And you do it with meaning. And hit it head on. And don't stop. I don't think that yeah. I think I've got no more words for the topic tonight.
Yeah.
It's
another one of those deep podcasts. Didn't mean to get dark like that, but man, this is a real thing, and we have to. That's the purpose of what we are doing.
It's reality, and when people want to ask, why is the criminal justice system failing them? One of the answers is because we're too damn busy failing ourselves.
That's it. You're exactly freaking right.
And that's why we talk about it, because and we also talk about it to hopefully spread the message, and other people in our profession that are listening something might click, and they might be in the situation or be faced with something, and can be able to handle things a little bit differently. But we've got to change it, and we owe it to each other. We owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to the people that we serve. And so, we come on here, we talk all the time about things that's wrong in the criminal justice system and wrong in law enforcement and what we're doing wrong. We mess this up. We mess that up. So tonight we can leave with something that we can do to fix it. Let's start here. Let's start with each other. Let's start within our house. Let's start with taking care of one another. And then we can start taking care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And doing better.
I agree. I think that's going to be all for tonight. Heck of a podcast. Great conversation. I feel like we always can tackle these topics together. Always enjoy it. And so thank everybody for tuning in tonight to the Failing Justice podcast. We're so grateful. I posted a thing earlier in the week, and it's gone up since then. But as of earlier, I think Monday, we to date, Failing Justice has had 6,750 or 60 downloads, and that doesn't include the YouTube views or anything on Rumble. That's just strictly podcast downloads from all different podcast platforms, and so that is really cool, really awesome. I'm so thankful for that. And I'm looking forward to the future. You know, we talked about there's so many things that we have going on with Failing Justice and what the plan is. And it's all in the name of justice, our experience, things we've experienced, and the things that we are just passionate about and that we want to change. And so thank everybody for tuning in. Remember to like all of our social media. We're on all the social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the podcasts, major podcast platforms. The new website is failingjustice.org. Simplified it, just failingjustice.org. You can also, our social media handles are at failing1justice. And we would be just very honored if you would share, like, and spread the word, because that's what it's going to take for us. So again, thanks for tuning in to the podcast tonight, and we will. We're actually not going to have a show next week. Next week's Thanksgiving, so
we're taking next week off.
We're taking next week off. So
all right,
remember, no show next week. Thanksgiving. Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy their family. Take in those moments, and we'll see you the next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Stay safe.
This is Failing Justice.